Should
Got a
we?
new pen, and it's a ghost, and it spins.
Oh, it's so cute.
So if you see me doing this, it's like my new like what are those?
It spins and everything.
Yeah, it's just I
So
don't know what the
cute.
hell.
A fidget
is-
spinner?
Yeah, like a
Yeah,
fidget
it's
spinner.
sort of. I guess it's like that, but it's on my pen, so it's sort of socially acceptable to carry around with me.
I feel this because a friend of mine has like a ghost phone case, and like it's like it has like little like the feet of the ghost are like little splayed out, and it's really really cute. It has like huge eyes, and I remember just like looking at it and staring at it for like 2 minutes uninterrupted. Just like it's so
sometimes
fucking cute.
Yeah, when things are cute, it's very calming. Anyway, I thought I'd show it to you because I keep doing this. So I'm like, I probably look insane. So
Actually,
let us continue.
I'm glad you did, because I was like, is this like a weird vape pen? Like what is
I thought it
what
was
is
like
what am
that?
I doing?
A wand? Yeah.
Well, I just noticed
It's
like
not
the
a
little
great-
Pac-Man ghost in your background on the
Yeah.
screen.
Oh, it's a regular ghost.
Oh, it's just
Oh.
regular ghost. Okay,
I don't know if I can.
It's not a Pac-Man branded ghost. Ghost
it's legally
Yeah.
distinct.
regular ghost.
unlicensed, not just
Licensed.
ghost.
Yeah, not for sale. OG. Yeah.
Can you configure like its little dance? Does that
No,
have that
that's
as an option?
it's a Picsou frame, so you just get them from like the app, like the
Oh,
people
I see.
upload their own designs. Yeah, you can
Oh,
make
okay.
your own, but like I don't know how to do that.
Sure. Yeah.
Why would I waste my time learning?
All right. So everyone cool? Should we get started?
Good.
Let's do this.
Okay, perfect. Agatha, do you need like a clap in or something? Like
Cost us nothing.
might as well clap. Okay, so I'll do 3, 2, 1. We'll clap. It'll be super out of sync on Zoom, but apparently it helps the editing process, and I just trust in the process. So on 3, 2, 1, we'll do a clap. So
Are we clapping on 1 or clapping on 0?
it goes 3, 2, 1, clap.
3, 2,
0.
1, clap. Okay.
Yes.
It's on 0.
So 3, 2, 1.
That's so out of sync.
It's fine. It's fine. It's part of the hilariousness of trying to record. Beautiful. Yeah. So yeah, thanks everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on this amazing episode. To our listeners out there, you're probably noticing that this is not Daniel or Agatha. This is actually Steve kind of bringing us in, and I get to host today's episode, which is really special and something we've been planning, I think, for a very, very long time. As you take a look at the title, or you might have seen the description, this is our first Vietnamese voices centric episode. It's very, very exciting. And if you've been a fan of the podcast for a while, you've probably heard me talk about, my Vietnamese heritage, my lineage, and the tangled diaspora that is who I am. So having this space is really, really awesome. I want to give a really quick shout out to the Asians Represent team for providing me this space. I've been working with them for 2 years now. What is even time? 2 years now. And we've been talking about this, and we really, really wanted to get it done. And it was actually the support of Daniel, Agatha, the rest of the team, encouraging me to make this happen and giving me the support. So a huge, huge thanks, especially because I think it's important to acknowledge that because of the way the podcast itself has been progressing over time, certain voices do get highlighted. And I don't think that's a fault or even done on purpose, but I think it happened kind of naturally. And I want to call out that steps like this episode are really, really important for, I think, the overall purpose of Asians Represent, uplifting all Asian voices. So having a space to talk about being Vietnamese and our diaspora is dope as fuck. Sorry, that kind of fell apart towards the end there.
Nailed it.
It's perfect. I love it. It's
Okay,
great.
perfect.
All good.
Genuine.
3 votes for being good. So I mean, that's 3 out of 4. You lose. That's
Yep.
perfect.
3 out of
Yeah.
4. Yeah.
Democracy.
Where's that fourth one?
Democracy.
A minus. What's the minus mean?
Fourth is you.
Second thing I want to mention, if you're catching this on Twitch, our listeners doesn't really apply, but if you're catching this on Twitch, this is actually a pre-recorded session, which is really, really awesome. Something we've been talking about for a while. The reason we're pre-recording this is because a lot of our guests here are in different time zones, and it's really hard sometimes to make live shows work the way I want it to. Another reason why pre-recorded is great is because we have a lot of fans and members of the community who are overseas, and time zones can make things really, really, really difficult. So having options to pre-record and still have voices get uplifted and highlighted is, again, something I think Asians Represent is a great place to do that on. So huge thanks to the platform, the folks behind the scenes that are there supporting us as we go through this kind of journey, as well as the things you'll do in the future to support us, because 100% this is not the last Vietnamese-centric episode. It's going to keep happening. but yeah, that's my little spiel, little heartfelt there. But I would love for our guests to introduce themselves. So we'll go Michelle, Vian, Kevin. If you wouldn't mind, names, your pronouns, and maybe a little sneak peek of something you may be working on. We'll dive into what your projects are in a little bit, but just names and pronouns and a little bit about yourself, if you wouldn't mind. Michelle, can I pick on you?
Yeah, hello everybody. This is the voice I default to when I get in. Hello.
Amazing.
What's up? My name is Michelle Nguyen Bradley. You can find me on the internet at I am Chubby Bunny everywhere. My pronouns are she, her. You can find all of my work and portfolio and all that information at michellenguyenbradley.com. I am a professional tabletop role player. I don't, like a lot of these fellows and peoples here, delve too much in the back end of making RPGs. So I've done a little bit here and there. But my main line, my main thing I do is being on camera for acting for tabletop shows, production. I work with a few companies that do the Twitch branded shows. So I do creative production over there. I'm also a writer, and I am a professional show host. I've hosted things such as Anime Expo. I was one of their main MCs this year for AX Light, and I've done their stage shows. I was also a host for Funimation, and yeah, and I do a lot of stuff gaming related, sort of here and there. I don't know. Is that too much or is that too little? Oh no! I don't like going first.
Beautiful.
Was
that an A or an A minus?
I'm gonna give you an A.
Oh,
holding on for the minus maybe towards the end, but you know what? Okay. We'll keep it loosey goosey
off. All right.
At least it didn't drop. At least it didn't drop a dope as fuck just randomly in the middle of your spiel. Oh my god.
Yo.
Anyways, let's move past that. Vian, who are you?
Hello. God, see, this is gonna be. It's fine. My name is Vian. Pronoun Vian Nguyen. Jeez Louise, I'm all tied up. Okay, my name is Vian Nguyen. My pronouns are they, them. I am a harmonics. I work at Harmonics as a QA tester. But you know, on the side, I do a lot of RPG, solo RPGs, just like a lot of experiences, exploring like kind of feelings and making sure that like interactive experience in games can really explore how we feel, and like making sure that we can address these things in like a safe space. That's kind of where I'm coming from with this stuff. There is a lot of things that Michelle mentioned and I don't remember, so that's all I got for you.
Yeah, it was just projects and name.
Oh, yeah. So I'm not really like working on any projects right now. I'm kind of like ruminating on things, thinking about mazes. So, nice. But yeah, I mean, just for the most part, my like design philosophy is always evolving, but it's mostly about kind of getting in those feelings and really like using them as play materials, if that makes any sense. But yeah.
Yeah, I was taking a look at some of your work and I was like, this is some wild shit. And like I'm into it, right? Like I think that's the indie RPG like edge. You just see some stuff and it's like, hey, you ever want to play a game where you use like one of those like sticky hands that you get from like vending machines? I got an RPG for you. And it's like wild stuff.
Yeah. I mean, one of my games, one of the other players is a moon. So like the actual moon in the sky. So
the moon.
Yeah. Play a game with the moon.
Yeah.
I'm so into it. But let's keep going because I could just dissect this forever. But before I do that, Kevin, who are you?
Hi, I'm Kevin Nguyen. There always has to be one Kevin Nguyen on any Viet-centric thing, diaspora thing, because that's the way it is. And I currently use he, him pronouns. So you can find and block me over on everywhere at knit_knack. You can buy my games, though, over at winconditions.com, including some games based on my Viet heritage and things like that, and including a game that just came out. If you like sports anime games, like maybe some volleyball sports anime, you can buy a game called Volley Boys over there, where it's not really about sports, it's more about friendships.
Yeah,
as
it's the friends you make along the way.
Yeah.
It was actually shared yesterday on our stream, but Gen Con asked Asians to present to play a game, and the little anecdote there was Dan was like, okay, we'll do one of two games. We could do like ninjas, or we could do sports anime volleyball. Fully expecting Gen Con to be like, do the ninja thing. And they were like, we have never seen a game about sports anime. Do that. And I'm like,
amazing.
And it's the first game that I think they're streaming. So like, that's wild. And like,
Love
yes,
it.
more
Love
of that,
it.
more of
So
that.
excited for that.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be really good. Amazing cast too. Anyways, I appreciate everyone kind of doing the introductions. For the folks who might not have heard me before, my name is Steve Nguyen. I use he, him, and I'm one of the co-hosts of Asians Represent. I do a little bit of writing in the tabletop RPG space. I was a writer an editor in Unbreakable Volume 1 and was an editor in Unbreakable Volume 2. Oh, you have yours.
Wow.
Did everyone remember to bring their show and tell items? You have your ghost, it's fine.
Oh my god.
But a lot of my work centers around Asians Represent and the work that we do here. Before we get into things, I really wanted to call out and comment actually that prior to recording, we were having like an email thread and talking about it. And I got the feel that everyone, myself included, had like a little bit of anxiety, a little nervousness around this episode. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I definitely was feeling that. And I think it was definitely part of the fact that I've never really had this kind of space where we're going to just talk with Viet voices about being Vietnamese in this kind of space that we exist in. It's really, really exciting. I think it's, to quote myself from earlier, dope as fuck. But it's also, I'm going to embrace it now, but it's also something that doesn't really happen that often. So it's kind of like blue ocean, right? It's kind of like, what's going to happen here? And I'm super, super excited for it.
We could do anything.
Anything's possible here. We could date the moon.
Let's do it.
One question I wanted to kind of pose to our panel here is, I definitely experienced some of this, but when you're doing your work, be it writing RPGs or performing as like a player on screen or anything like that, to what degree do you find yourself, trying to be seen as Viet or trying to incorporate Viet elements into whatever it is you're doing? Open question.
I can start if you guys want.
Go for it.
So I've at this point been on maybe almost 30 different shows for RPGs. And in most of those cases, like 99.9% of them, you're asked to make your own character, do whatever it is you want, pull from the book, whatever. But so it's always like, do whatever you want, and then we'll let you know if it fits or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think for most of my career, I hadn't really thought about incorporating any elements of, well, it's not true. I think at the beginning of making a character, I'm always like, should I make this person Asian? Is that weird? And the fact that I even think that is wild. It's wild that I don't know if I'm allowed to be who I am in a game.
Right.
So sometimes I'm just like generic soldier, or like I'm a bird person, and like that's fine too. It's good to be different things that aren't you. But then like sort of recently I've just been like, I mean, I don't have to be like a ninja all the time. I can just like, just because I'm Asian, that's the only like archetype you can pick that seems like Asianish. You can kind of be Asian and be whatever class. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but there is a sort of expectation that if you are like an assassin or a thief, here these kinds of tropes, like then maybe it's okay to be Asian. But now I'm just sort of like been throwing that out the window a little bit recently. And I had never really, I would say up until participating in some of the Asian American Pacific Islander like charity streams around March, I hadn't really thought about playing a Vietnamese character. And then I was in a show, this is on Erica from Mina's channel. She's a style pixie. She did a whole day of charity streams. And everyone was being encouraged to be like an Asian version of their RPG character because it was about, supporting Asian American Pacific Islanders. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be what's Vietnamese? Like, what creature can I be? So I was Googling, and my background is I am a child of immigrants that came over during the war, and I don't speak Vietnamese. I was raised in a Vietnamese community. So that really messed me up growing up when I was like, oh, I'm Asian. I don't have any tools to deal with that. But anyway, so I had to like Google, like, what are some Vietnamese legends? I know zero of them. And I found this stuff about like, there's like a turtle, and I was like, I'm this turtle. It's real cool. And it's from this lake, and it's based off this thing from this emperor who had a sword. He had to return to this lake. You guys, I'm talking about that lake with the sword and like all the gross turtles. It's a really disgusting lake now in the middle of
it's so sad.
Yeah. So it's I Googled that and I was like, okay, I'm this turtle. I had all this backstory. And that was the most I ever learned about Vietnam because of, well, not but like that's the most I've learned about Legends of Vietnam, because I was just encouraged to look for backstory about my own culture, and that like really, I was like, well, like I think the world, you know, it is blue ocean. I should just like, why am I holding myself back? And then recently, I was on Critical Role. We are sort of in the middle of a mini series. It's the Critical Role Elder Scrolls Online collaboration mini series. And again, I was encouraged to make whatever character I want. We had some like not limitations, but like, oh, these are the races, because it's Elder Scrolls Online races and not ancestries, and not just all D&D. So I was like, cool, I'm the elf because the elf's cool. Wait a minute, is it weird that I'm picking the elf because elves look Asian in Elder Scrolls?
Oh God, we could have an entire episode about Asian coding and elves.
Yeah, so there's 3 elven races, and like basically they're like the wood ones, the underdark ones, and the mountain forest ones or whatever, or the ocean ones. I can't remember. So I picked like I don't know. It doesn't matter. The point is that I was kind of like, this feels very generic and not me. And as I was making my character, and I was like, you know, I think when I pick names for characters, I put a lot of work into that, and like it has to mean something very special to that character. Mm-hmm. So when I was thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I should make it like a Vietnamese word, because it's like a really good chance to, you know, I'm very cognizant that like Critical Role is the top, it's the biggest show that I could probably be on RPG wise, and it was going to be seen by a lot of people. So I was like, it's really important I pick a good name. It'd be nice if it was Vietnamese. Like, what could I do? And I'm like Googling for like a week here, because I'm not, again, don't speak Vietnamese. I don't have a very strong connection to my culture, even though my parents are Vietnamese. And then I was like, oh, dude, why not just do like my mom? So,
your mom. Yeah. That's so cute.
So I Googled, like, I didn't really know like her name meant. So my mom's name is Phuong Hoa. So I took the Hoa part. She tells her name is like Hoa, but actually she tells everyone that her name is Lily, because she thinks that people can't say it. And so when I growing up, I just heard like all like the white people in our town calling her Lily, and I was her kid, and that was very odd to me. But so in the show, I named myself Hoa Sen, which is the it's that specific lily flower. Mm-hmm. But I just had everyone call me like Hoa. And I remember you know, that name, I remember trying to pick a word that was a flower or a tree, because the character is like sort of druidic. Yeah. And when it came to, I didn't realize how much it was going to mean until I'm like sitting around the cast, and they're like, what's your name? And I'm trying to tell everyone how to pronounce it, because none of them are Vietnamese, you know, obviously, and a lot of people don't know how to say it. And I was like, wow, now they all know how to say my mom's name. That's really great. And I think when, you know, when people watch the show, they're going to see it and hear it and maybe learn how to say it. So after that first episode went up, I posted a picture of the character sheet, and then like a picture of my mom. Getting a little emotional, but I was like, hey guys, like, here's how you pronounce her name, like, so she doesn't feel embarrassed and have to say like her name is Lily. So
oh my goodness. I'm so into this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fucking cry.
Yeah, so everyone feel free to cry, because I'm a very ugly crier. But so I think like in that way, that's how I'm bringing my Vietnamese heritage to sort of like my roles or like my work, because I can't really do it any other way. And I think or maybe I'm just learning there are more ways to do it, and I'm just finding out about them. So that was like a really like a nice thing. And then of course trying to tell my mom what Critical Role was and what Twitch was like a whole like this is like a week-long conversation. And then she sat and watched it with me when she came to visit recently, and of course was like, why are you guys not doing anything? I don't know what this show's about.
Why are you sitting and talking? What is this?
She literally was like, well, you all look nice, so good for you. Like she like was not, I'm like, Mom, this is like the biggest show, like the biggest like tabletop show I could possibly be on, like you know, and you know, it's good. And she's like, it's nice.
everything that has just happened, it like resonates with me like at a core. Like my bones are happy now. Just like that would, oh my goodness.
Feel seen.
Yeah.
Seen.
Yes. And actually I want to comment on that. So Michelle, like Hoa Sen, that character, like it was a moment when I saw Critical Role has this character, and I looked at the name, and like immediately everything in my life stopped, like water droplets were like in midair. And I was like, there's a Vietnamese character on Critical Role. And I was like, when the hell, like I if you had asked me if that was going to happen, like would it take 10 years, 50 years? I'd be like, would never happen. And then it did happen. And it was a wild moment. So, you know, just piling on emotions. It was very emotional to see that. And now that I know this extra story, you know, I will cry every single time I see this character's name.
It's, you know, it's funny because we all try to make ourselves so small that's how we were raised, right? So now that we're getting older and we're in these spaces and we're creating our own work and we're having a little more power, it's wild to know that we now we're the ones other people are looking up to, and I'm making that switch over. But it's so weird to me. Like I have people who are Vietnamese American or just diaspora Vietnamese, like always messaging me like, hey, that's so cool. Like now people like know how to, even seeing like your last name and something is so cool. Like all of us Nguyen's are like kind of connected.
We're hard, yeah. You don't know each other, but we know each other. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all from that same emperor or whatever. I don't know. I can't remember what the story
we're all
is.
like part of that same dynasty.
Yeah, we're all from that dynasty. But like actively making decisions for how can we, because I think on any show, on any channel, I assume people, or they want to be allies, they want to show diversity, they want to do all these things, but the thing is they can't do it if they're not Vietnamese. Like they can't show Vietnamese,
doesn't mean the same thing,
characters unless they are Vietnamese or they have had a really strong interaction with, like, one of the best friends is Vietnamese and they think, oh, maybe I should put this character in my show. But more often it comes from us directly. So we're the ones who got to push ourselves in, and it feels, even when I was doing it, it felt a little weird. I was like, is this selfish? I literally said, is this selfish for me to do? I asked one of the other, I was talking to Abria, who doesn't mind me mentioning this, and I was like, hey, is it selfish for me to do this? And she's like, yo, shut the fuck up, right? She didn't say shut the fuck up, but she was, her wording was more eloquent, and she was just like, no, this is amazing, it's great, you should go. And I'm like, okay. Like I had to ask permission. So
I think it's interesting because I feel like I've had sorry Kevin.
No.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I feel like I've had the opposite experience. Like I feel like I came into like the role-playing scene pretty late. Like a lot of like kind of in insular communities. Like if y'all know Viditya Valetti, like he's out here doing his shit.
Mm-hmm.
But like he kind of introduced me to role-playing games in college, and like I'm coming from like an academic space of like, what are games, what can interaction be? And then so like when we started playing RPGs, I was like, who the fuck are these like illustrations of these like white people like mixed, like, but I'm like, what, who are these people? They're not me, they don't look like me. And so the whole thing about RPGs was sold to me as like, you can be whatever you want to be, like you can do whatever you want. And so sometimes that meant being as close to me as possible so I could just fully like bleed out into the space with my friends in this like trusting environment where I'm like, hey guys, I'm feeling grief, my character is grieving, we are crying, me character and also me person crying, same tears. But like me and him, since like we went to a predominantly white institution, and like some of our, like half of that table was like white people, it was like me and Vid kind of looked at each other and I was like, I am never playing a white person. I'm making this commitment with you right now that anytime I play an RPG, I'm playing a Vietnamese person, even if that means I have to do this embarrassing Google search of like, what are Vietnamese people names? Like,
yeah.
Like, no, we have 4 of them. We don't have that many names.
You know what?
It's so
Actually, behindthename.com is like your best friend for that, honestly.
Oh, real?
Yeah, there's
so
like there's a random renamer, and you can pick like different like national origins, and Vietnamese is one of them. I always go there whenever I need a character.
I reverse search words like tree and rock and
oh yeah, no, yeah,
that's also valid.
It's super valid.
Yeah,
or just like going through Wikipedia, looking up one historical Vietnamese person, and just like going a couple pages over, it's like, okay, that name, that's
there
like a real person's name, I'm just gonna rip that.
Yeah, but like it's so real. Like if you are a Vietnamese, and I think my question of like, is it selfish, is more like, am I allowed to bring my baggage into this game space? Like, am I allowed to feel all my feelings? But I think I think that like question of safety, like, are these people that I trust will like hold my character and like be gentle and not like bring some like real, like, because when you make that character a race like rooted in reality, that's like a question of the table of like, will you respect that, and are you going to bring actual real racist garbage when I like bring my identity on this table? I don't know, that's something I think about sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, I don't think I was worried about that so much because I did trust this table, but it was more about like, I think I was worried about the community being like, why are you using this as a soapbox or something? Like maybe it was like that feeling, I guess, and which again is stupid because why are our characters named like Arthur James, Paul, looking at you, Dune, like Paul and Jessica. I'm like, guys, he's terrible. Anyway, but like, why not us? And it's it's nice to feel that I have that and it's not like every single character I make now from now on is gonna be like like, you know, have to have this deep meaning, because I frankly don't have that many stories. I have one mother, one father. But like, I think I don't feel pressure to do it, but I also feel like I feel a little more free, like I'm allowed to. So to bring my identity into at least, you know, the role playing space. But
it's also like normalizing
production work, totally different story.
Oh, sure. And it's like normalizing our identity. Like there doesn't need to be this like crazy history or like ancestry tie-in. Like we are also Vietnamese people, and like by existing we are Vietnamese. Like that narrative doesn't need to fit in any kind of expectation. I don't know, that's at least what I tell myself when I'm like, I don't know what this character is, but they're Vietnamese and they're gonna cry the same tears that I cry. Like that doesn't define anything about my race, I guess. It just, that's what's happened. I don't know. It's
definitely tangled. Kevin, did you have something you wanted to add in here?
Yeah, I mean, like jumping off of what Vian just said, like I tend to make a lot of my characters Vietnamese, especially if it's on a stream, because I really want to push that and like carve out that space for Vietnamese folks and Vietnamese characters. But like also like I don't feel like it necessarily needs to be like this major thing about them. It can be just the name, because while I am Vietnamese and it's super important to me, I'm also a lot of other things. And like those characters can focus on those different aspects. But like sort of like speaking to like what Steve said about seeing Michelle's character on Critical Role, like I watched Misfits and Magic like recently, and Abria brought out Cleo or Khan, who also goes by Cleo, as like sort of, well, all these white people can't pronounce my fucking Vietnamese name. And I stopped. I had to pause, and I messaged every person I know. I didn't get like Vietnamese, like Asian, not Asian. I didn't care. I'm like, no, you need to watch the show. You need to like feel this with me. And like, it just felt so good to see that. And like, especially even from a non-Vietnamese person, acknowledging like that there are other Asian people that exist besides just like sort of Chinese, Korean, and Japanese, which tend to be the Asian characters featured in media. And like at least when I came into the space, I didn't feel super welcome as a Vietnamese person, and that leads to why I kind of trend towards making Vietnamese characters, because either you weren't represented in fantasy, which is what I mostly played, or in non-fantasy, which is like sci-fi or like current modern, like Vietnamese people existed in the framework of the Vietnamese American conflict and the Vietnamese French conflict as like the antagonists, and that's it. And like I'm like, first of all, there's a whole other side to that narrative, and second of all, there's so much more to Vietnam besides this like 20-year gap, and it's like hundreds and thousands of year-long history, both before and which is going to come. And there's so much space there to play with, and so many other narratives there that like I personally feel really compelled to showcase and like sort of contribute to, if I have that space to sort of that spotlight.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with the idea that for the longest time, my Vietnamese identity was basically couched in American perceptions of violence and war.
Yep.
I was telling this story on previous episodes back in high school, and I was a bad kid. Like I was just like, boy, I got to learn a lot more about the world. I started pushing my nickname to be Charlie, because that's what GIs would call the Viet Cong, Charlie and the Tree Lines. And I thought that would be like a really cool nickname. And then, you know, around like 17, 18 years old, I was like, this is really fucked up. Like I'm identifying myself as a war combatant, and that's how I'm couching my identity. This is going to lead me to very, very bad and dark places, and it already kind of is. And like, that was a very emotional time in my life. And I'm like, damn, I'm not even 18 yet. Like,
yeah, it just shows that we had so little to hang on to in terms of what, like, it's crazy because, you know, everyone, American ideal is like, oh, you make yourself, you are self-created, you know, but the reality is that society creates you and tells you what to think about yourself. And when we're not shown at all, there's no representation, we don't, like, no one's even like hinting at like what we could be. We just think we grasp onto the little things like that. And that's, you know, that's what happens. Or be like me and just don't really don't really like look into being Asian until like you're in your 20s. That's the whole thing you can do too. Just ignore that as long as you can.
I'm the same way. I don't speak Vietnamese, like same as you. I didn't feel as embraced by the Vietnamese community. I was not as good a kid like Steve, and like same exact thing. Charlie, I tried to embrace that name as well, like coincidentally, which I feel like a lot of young Vietnamese men like tend to do. That's like I've heard that from other Vietnamese men in my local community, and it's like it's really hard. Like like in America, a certain demographic of person is allowed to make themselves, but all the rest of us, we're kind of we are we tend to be made by that demographic for the most part. And just when we do get these little like spaces to ourselves, like when a lot of us Vietnamese folks saw Kelly Marie Tran in Star Wars being a character that's not just, let alone being a Vietnamese woman just explicitly out there, and like not being a character that's like tied to all these like narratives that like a lot of us feel a lot of pain over and a lot of history over. That was so good seeing that, like, no, we sort of society as at a large does recognize that we can break out of that mold, but like they kind of allow us to, but like, no, like we got that little crack, so like let's fucking like just rip that open and get out there.
Like just allowed to exist as a person.
And this is also like maybe like sidebar, but like, you know, when she wore her that Eldai to the red carpet, like sort of, it was the sort of with like
the crown and everything.
I remember looking up the designer, and he's like, look in LA, and I was like I added him on Instagram, like messaged him like, this is so like this person I don't know, and then I've been trying. My mom has a collection of Eldai that are way too small for me, so like I try to take photos of them. I can't wear them out because I literally can't like move my arms, because you know how it's all like my chin is like stuck inside of it. So I've been trying to do more like part of my work is like I'm like an influencer on Instagram or whatever, but I try to like, you know, I push my agenda, which is like, hey, like our stuff is cool too, like not, you know, it's fine, you know, it's fine, it's normal. I actually wish I had more Eldai to like wear out to like, you know, fancy events and stuff, but they are so uncomfortable. Why isn't our culture's clothing more comfortable?
One of my dream outfits to like wear like to a big thing or like an event is like a more masculine Eldai, because it would show off my guns, and then I would have like a slit up the leg to show like the quads and stuff. But that is like give you some like 100% a thing. But if I wore it, my parents saw a picture of it, they would disown me. I just know that.
From my understanding is that Eldai are sort of gender neutral.
They are.
And like I've seen a lot of wedding photos of like men and women like paired together in their wedding photos, both wearing like matching Eldai, and like the men's Eldai like with these beautiful embroidered like dragons and phoenixes on the front and everything. And like I don't know, I try to make like, I've made a couple of characters in like live shows where like they specifically wear Eldai just to show like, no, this is not exclusively a feminine thing, even if this is like the one of the few things about Vietnamese culture that you know. And like my understanding is that the Eldai became a lot more constricted during the war because of like sex work and things like that, and appealing to sort of the incoming GIs and such like that. So like if you look up like sort of more modern cuts that in Vietnam of Eldai, they're kind of trending away from that and becoming more a little bit more not as restrictive and things like that, and a little bit better. And like I think it's just so interesting, like even this one piece of clothing, how like it's got this its own narrative, and like how much it means to us as diaspora folks, and like sort of trying to showcase that in Instagram, in our characters, and try to like aspiring to be able to wear these again.
I'm hearing so much here that really resonates with me, and it's beautiful to hear all these like takes and stuff, and it's really resonating, but it's also quite tragic that I almost feel like we're trying to like get scraps of representation. The fact that a name alone can like bring us to tears about representation, I think is very telling of the overall deep-seated pain or trauma, generational trauma that we feel. And I really appreciate everyone kind of sharing these stories here. I actually want to ask a question, if that's okay with everyone. And I was very curious. When was the first time you ever saw Vietnamese representation in any media? Like, what was the first time?
Can I ask? Are you specifically asking about Western media?
Ooh, good question. I'm gonna say yes, Western media.
Okay. I've seen Paris by Night.
Exactly what I was gonna bring
up. Oh my god, my dad loved that.
Deep cut
every night. We had
every party
70,000 volumes. Yeah,
I can't do it. Like the
crooning. They still do that.
Are
they still doing that? Are they still doing Paris by Night?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, for sure.
That will outlast the heat death of the universe.
Yeah,
I swear.
Absolutely.
Oh my god.
I guess in the first Power Rangers,
the
Yellow Ranger.
Yeah.
Was she Vietnamese?
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah. Her last name was Tran.
Wow.
So that was, I think, one of the first ones.
Yeah, I think that is also the first one for me. I completely forgot about it, but you're absolutely right. And they picked an actress with a Vietnamese accent too, which was, at that time, it would have been very easy to pick someone who just presents more Western.
Yeah.
But I think Power Rangers itself has always been a show about coming together as kids and community and building something better, leaving something better the way it was. I fucking love Power Rangers. Fuck, we gotta do a Power Rangers RPG. Anyways.
I know a couple.
Yeah, definitely.
So good.
They're releasing that the official ones soonish, I think.
Oh yeah, I forgot there's an official.
Yeah,
one.
Renegade is making their own system for Power Rangers, Transformers, and what's the last one?
G.I.
Joe. G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyways.
Yeah, I can't think of like in the 90s. I can't think of anyone else except for Yellow Ranger.
She might have been
Asian,
the first for me,
yellow.
but I might not. I don't think I was conscious that she was Vietnamese at the time. I was a little bit too young.
That's in terms of like explicitly Vietnamese. Like, it's fucked up, but my brain was like Raya, like explicit. You know, I can't think of anything else. Like, it's either like their name was Vietnamese or it was a hint or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
For me, it was probably like Vietnam War movies. Like
that's I could see that too.
Yeah. That for some reason they showed to us in history class in high school.
Yeah.
Oh man, in high school we went to Toronto and we saw Miss Saigon, and I was like,
yep.
I was like, oh okay, this is what my country's like. I don't know, like that's weird.
Yeah.
Just very upset about it.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people like their first exposure to Vietnamese culture was like Rambo, right? Where he's having like PTSD flashbacks to being tortured. And I don't even know if those are Vietnamese actors because they happen so quickly, but it wouldn't surprise me given the time. Yeah. But
Rambo,
that's
Apocalypse Now, Platoon, something like that. All those big tentpole movies, like, oh, these are big, like sort of standards in cinema. And like, it's just really traumatic for a lot of people.
I would say our difficulty right now coming up with names is indicative that like, well, one, like, it doesn't really exist, but also like growing up, I do have stronger memories of other Asian representation,
like
and
Chinese
just being like, specifically, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, and just being like, okay, that's close enough. Like
close enough.
But because we are all treated the same, like, you know what I mean? Like because people blanket us as Asia altogether. Like my like when I see something, like I saw Shang-Chi last night, and I was like, this is very good for all of us. Like it's very Chinese centered, but it's also like the diaspora experience is like sort of is referred to in that movie. And I'm still very proud of that movie. And I still feel like that represents like all of us, even though, yes, we are not all one fucking like monolith, but like I like talking about like Miss Saigon, like Leah Salonga, like I love her. Like, I have all these Asian sort of like actresses in my back of my head from like the 90s, from like like Joy Luck Club, like those people, but like a lot of them are not Vietnamese, like they're playing Vietnamese, but to me, like that was, and I guess part of it still is like enough for my nostalgic memories of like that made me feel like I had representation, even though it wasn't technically directly a Vietnamese person,
Yeah, I mean, I watched I watched Mulan like a couple weeks ago, crying. I was gone. I was like, this is a trans narrative. This is like a diaspora narrative. Like, I'm like losing it. I'm like, absolutely. And it's not even about, it's like about China. It's about China and like Mongolians. And I'm like, this is me. She is me.
Yeah. Representation definitely takes, I think, a lot of different forms. And it's not just about like your DNA, but I don't know. I think, I don't know about the rest of you, but growing up, in America and being Asian and not having any Vietnamese representation, like I did cling on to other, like I speak fluent Japanese. I don't speak Vietnamese. I'm a black belt in Kung Fu. I learned about my parents' restaurant it had to be half Chinese and like half Vietnamese because people didn't know what Vietnamese food was. It had to be like, the American Chinese food with like a tiki bar in the front. All these things don't make any sense. But anyway, but like that, like my identity is very wrapped up in like a lot of different Asian cultures that I could see and like grasp onto and learn about that was not necessarily Vietnamese. And that's why, I don't know, for me, I think all Asian representation that I see on in the media is great. I'm amazed when it's Vietnamese, but like at this point I don't expect it to be Vietnamese. It's fucked up, but like yeah, it's hard.
I think a lot of it, having spoken to, like, I've just begun these conversations, but having spoken to other folks in these spaces, oftentimes our identity our Vietnamese identity is already tangled up in a lot of different identities. I think that's just part of the Vietnamese experience. And it puts you in a very strange starting place, because the starting point is you have a tangled identity, and the end point is it's still really tangled, but now you just kind of understand the tangles more.
Yeah.
And I find that for other identities, sometimes that tension doesn't exist to the extent that sometimes we feel. And that's been a difficult conversation, I think, for a lot of folks, because like human brain, it would be nice if everything was like in a box, right? Like I could be like, oh yeah, that's Vietnamese, instead of being like, oh, it's Vietnamese, but I mean, that particular person has like Chinese roots or like Thai roots or something like that. And that can be very, very difficult. And if I can pause it, I think when it comes to like just the name itself, I think that is a very clear Vietnamese identifier. Like the names, I think, are very clear, but everything else could be kind of fluid, like we were describing here. And someone could look at it and be like, oh, generic Asian, but that's like not enough almost. That's how it feels for me. So I'm feeling very emotional, by the way. This is
Safe.
this is very good, but also very heavy. So thank you all for your patience.
Yeah, I think this is things we feel like we're not allowed to talk about until we finally make a space to do it. And yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll lean into more of kind of slightly more negative, since we're kind of already feeling some tension here. Have there been times where in the spaces that we've existed in, things like that, you felt, I think shame is too hard of a word, but you felt tension around representing as Vietnamese, or like putting something out and like it's Vietnamese and you're intending it to? Michelle, you've already mentioned, you almost felt like it was selfish to have this character. Does anyone have any thoughts around putting that kind of stuff out?
I have a counter question. Have you guys ever felt like you were culturally appropriating?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
your own culture.
true.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dude, I grew up in Pittsburgh. I don't know what the fuck Vietnam looks like. I never been there. It's weird.
Kevin's reaction of like, yeah.
Having to read history books by white scholars about my own, like sort of my parents' home country, like feels weird.
Yeah, I'm like, Wikipedia, help. I don't.
And then Wikipedia is like mostly white men writing these things, and you're like, but you know more than I do.
Yeah, and I can't speak Vietnamese to read the Vietnamese like scholars' histories, and like it's a whole thing. Yeah.
I started, I finished my Duolingo for all Vietnamese. I can speak no Vietnamese. It's all gold starred, and I can speak none of it. But I did it. But the thing is, it was actually super difficult to go through all of it, because the sentences are garbage. Like, I don't care if the chicken bit the bat. Like, that doesn't make me happy. And like, I will never use
how often that has happened in day-to-day life.
But I started doing some French lessons, and there's a lot more support for the French stuff. The sentences actually make sense. There are things like, I would like to buy this food, like stuff you would actually say. And when you make a mistake, it goes into like a loop where it tries to correct your mistakes. Whereas for the Vietnamese lessons, sometimes don't even explain to you what's wrong. And sometimes you're right, but because of the mechanics of it, you're wrong. And like, you're like, oh, my hearts go back once per 3 hours. So that one typo cost me 3 hours.
Oh, no.
The Vietnamese lessons have so much less of the audio, like sort of samples, whereas the French, like every single word pretty much in my experience had like an audio sample of how it's pronounced and everything. And like in my experience, half of the Vietnamese stuff was just exclusively text. I'm like, I really want to learn how to read Vietnamese. I want to learn how to speak Vietnamese. So I need to hear this, and like, And
like the practical applications of like, this is, if you're referring to someone and then it's a formal context and you say it like this, and like that's like a lot of nuance. That why are you supporting like Duolingo? Why are you supporting a language that you clearly don't want to support? Like, what the hell?
It's a checkbox.
Yeah.
Checkbox.
But that's actually funny you mentioned that, because I feel like I start and stop those like language apps, because I'm like, if I actually do it, then I will come out the other end not knowing Vietnamese, and I'll feel like shit. So if I never try, I'll never know.
I already feel like shit, so why mess with a good thing?
Right?
We're already at the bottom.
I have a quick question for you, Steve, having brought up that. Was there a specific reason you picked French? Because for myself in high school, I had the option of either French or Spanish, and I picked French because I know there is some French influence in like at least modern Vietnamese language because of the colonialism, and like at least you can see some French words sometimes in the menus.
So this
in Vietnamese restaurants.
Okay, so this is gonna sound really fucked up, but I tell people I'm learning French because I'm Canadian and it's our other official language. But
Ah.
actually, it's because I have a feeling that I'm going to be in Vietnam at some point, and knowing French will actually get me by more than
Yeah,
English
More
will.
than
Yeah.
yeah.
So
that's pretty
I've never actually shared that with anyone before. It's like
Aw.
been this like deep rooted thing in my brain. And I've just, it's this like weird thing, this knot in my emotions that I've never touched, because I'm actually kind of afraid to touch it because I don't know what's going to happen when I unravel it. But hey, I'm still standing, so I guess it wasn't that bad.
I would like to recommend to everybody at this table, if you're not already, therapy is great. I didn't start till I was well into my adulthood because we're Asian and we're not allowed to tell anyone our problems. We just keep, you just push it down deeper and deeper and stuff. But guess what? That doesn't solve anything. I found a great Vietnamese therapist online, and she yells at me a lot about that kind of stuff. Like, hey,
I love
you
that.
gotta just talk about it. It sucks. Just talk about it. It'll suck less next time.
I love that because you know, that is very much my experience with a lot of different skills. Like I'm gonna suck at it consciously for a very long time, and suddenly it'll be easier, and it gets easier each day, whether it's lifting, writing, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, thumbs up, therapy, A+, S tier.
I mean, it's, you know, healthcare is some bullshit, and not everyone can afford it. But I would recommend even getting a workbook. Is how I first started my like therapy journey. Is I had it was a workbook I got on Amazon for like anxiety, and like every day you just like filled out some questions, and like even that was really good.
Like processing, reflecting.
But like I think, you know, for like you're saying, Steve, like unpacking, it just feels like no one understands. Like why talk to it about anybody? So it does feel like a journey you have to do by yourself, but because it's for yourself, you're like, ow, I can just wait. I can just not do it for like until I die. Cause I just never trust this.
Yep.
I feel that way about, like, I have to go to Vietnam at some point, and I'm avoiding it for some reason. And I need help. I need someone to like take me.
Let's all go. Let's plan a trip in
Group
a
trip.
couple years.
Let's fucking do it.
Yeah.
I looked into moving to Vietnam, and that was a very emotional time where I'm like, I really want to go back. Why I don't want to go back? Like, what's there for me? And like, I had no idea how to unpack that. And I think that's kind of cool, but also, yeah, the country itself, the physicality of it has meaning too. Sorry, go ahead, Vian.
Oh, I was just gonna kind of go back to that language bit, and I'd provide some context. Because like I wouldn't say out loud to anyone that I speak Vietnamese. I'm not fluent. I'm not like whatever, but I can like be embarrassed, like 100% embarrassed, but I can order at a Vietnamese restaurant. That does not mean anything about my comprehension skills. But like in terms of like I have a lot of family from Vietnam that came here like as refugees and stuff like that. So when I get to spend time with them, it's a lot of like me being absolutely quiet. Like I don't know, y'all don't know me that well, but like I do speak a lot. I am very like upfront with my feelings, and I say what I feel. But with my family, I am silent because there's either nothing that I know how to say to them. Like the nuance kind of like eludes me in terms of like my understanding as like I have like a 5-year-old, maybe less than that, 3-year-old's understanding of Vietnamese, because I can ask for food. That's a 3-year-old's level of understanding.
Yep.
But when it comes to like queer stuff, like when my uncle is like, you chose to be gay, I'm like, I have no rebuttal that like we can we can't. Yeah, it was just that. Yeah, it's rough.
I am commiserating with you because my relationships with my family, the diaspora, the pressure to be Asian, and then the pressure to be Vietnamese, and then the pressure to be Western, really stretch and pull you in ways that maybe are not the most comfortable. I mean, obviously you figure out ways to kind of work through it. But you know, the pain is real. The pain really does exist, and it doesn't really go away, you know, scars and all that good stuff. Whew. We're doing great. We're doing great, y'all. Drink your water.
Sorry, what was the original question, Steve? I honestly forgot.
How are you fucked up?
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, welcome to therapy. Asia represent therapy. I did want to mention that speaking of language, I feel like we came back to language, which I love, because I think the Vietnamese language is actually gorgeous. I love it. I can't speak it either. I picked up a a kid's book. I actually bought a kid's book on Amazon that was in Vietnamese, but it's also in English. And I remember having like that imposter syndrome where like, am I allowed to buy this? Like, I feel like that's appropriative. I did it anyways because it wasn't for me. I'm like, that's okay, not my problem anymore. And then I remember reading it, and the very little bit of Vietnamese that I know, I'm reading the Vietnamese, and the English translation is wrong. Like, it's just straight up not correct.
Oh.
It's the same like idea. It's actually a really cute book. It's called Am I Small? It's about a little girl who keeps asking like, am I small? And she asks like another adult, and the adult's like, yeah, you're small. Then she asks like an elephant. The elephant's like, you're puny. Then she asks like the moon, and the moon's like, you're diminutive. And then she starts asking like squirrels, and the squirrel's like, you're huge. And then she asks like an ant, and the ant is like, you're humongous. And then she asks like tiny insects and things like that, and they're like, you are like gargantuan. And she realizes that doesn't matter what she is, they're all just labels, and everyone's going to perceive her different ways, so she's fine as she is. And I'm like, that's really cute. The English translations don't do justice to actually what is being said in Vietnamese, and that's a real shame. The other book that I bought a whole bunch of, let's go back to you, Michelle, of legends, folk tales. They're in Vietnamese, and there is also an English translation. Yeah, I think it's the same book. I think you recommended it to me.
This one?
It is not that
Oh
book.
my gosh, I borrowed that book from the library. That's so what?
Yeah.
There's 3 books out there, guys. There's 3
This
books
one?
out there
Cool.
for business.
Do you have
so
all of them?
That one
I
was
have a
one of the one I
bunch.
bought, but then
Nice,
there was
nice.
also the other one. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a third one.
What I do
What's the
remember
third
is that I got it and I was flipping through it, and there was a CD-ROM in it, and I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? Because literally I have nothing in my house that can play CD-ROM.
CD-ROM. Oh my god.
One of these books has a CD too. I'm like, I don't have a CD drive anymore.
Damn
Like,
it.
what am I
know.
supposed to do with it? Yeah, anyways.
You should buy a USB
But
one.
I started reading it, and I was like, I feel like maybe I'm not allowed to read this. I feel like am I appropriating my own culture by sitting here and reading the folk tales while experiencing this like diaspora? And again, therapy 100% recommend, but I wanted to share that and kind of put that out
Yeah.
there.
I feel like that's fair, but I think, you have to think about, well, then why am I allowed to read like anything? Like, why is anybody allowed to read anything? Like, it's I understand that feeling, and I definitely had that when I was Googling like Vietnamese legends on Google, and it just every time I read something and learned a new thing, I felt sad I didn't already know it. Is that feeling?
Like, at least for me, tangentially to that, like researching that stuff, I pull on like Vietnamese legends that I'm able to research and find. I pull it on my like game writing work and my personal writing work, like in like my Unbreakable stuff, and I get such high levels of anxiety. I'm like, are other Vietnamese people going to see this and like call me out as like this is wrong? because I like got it from a book or like a Wikipedia article, even though I spend hours just like trying to get like trying to get other cosigns for like this, even just like this translation of an animal's name in Vietnamese. I'm just like, there's this like, as a diaspora, there's this weight of like, oh yeah, like imposter syndrome, and also like this weight that like we're supposed to, because like even to other people outside of that aren't Vietnamese diaspora, that we're supposed to be perfect and have this perfect knowledge of all of this stuff, just because we're genetically tied together to and like culturally tied to this stuff. But it's like, no, other Vietnamese people who are like native to Vietnam are gonna fuck this stuff up too. But like, because there's so much other different weight of it on us, it's like anxiety inducing, and like it feels like so much sometimes, even though we have as much right to it and as to that all those cultural touchstones as anyone else, including other Vietnamese and like sort of Vietnamese from Vietnam, and we have as much right to like kind of fuck up about it as anybody else does, like more so than a lot of people that aren't Vietnamese.
I think something that I had this breakthrough when I was in school, and I was asking myself, like, what is my voice? And I was trying to really shove like the Vietnamese identity into that voice, like making sure that I represent that part of myself, like making sure I'm not whitewashing myself. That was like a thought I had. But as I was going through this research of like ancient Vietnamese history, like I was really asking myself, what am I looking for? And like, am I like, I had this thought that like, it really saddened me that like I might be looking for this like pure Vietnam, pre-colonial Vietnam that like it would accept me and like understands me, and like as soon as it got like closer to that, like whatever that was, I realized it doesn't exist. And like that, sometimes I think about coming back to Vietnam, but I also feel like I would feel as much of a foreigner as like what Michelle, you were talking about before we started recording, like going to Japan. Like I feel like I'd be super called out in Vietnam. Like they'd be like, you fucking don't, you try to speak Vietnamese to me, you're wrong. Like get out of here. Like I don't know.
When I go to Vietnam, because of the way I present and things like that, I look very American. Like I don't miss any meals. And people treat me like a tourist there. And it's like, no, like I live in this house. Like this is where I'm living. I'm not a tourist. Like I don't need to go back to a hotel. Like I'm fine. I'm not speaking the language, so that makes it even worse. But even being otherized in that geographical space, that can be mind fuck.
This is like a weird representation of it, but have you watched that episode of BoJack Horseman where I can't remember the name of the Vietnamese girl who's BoJack's friend goes to that
Kristen Nguyen?
Voiced by Alison Brie. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
what? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
No, yeah, it's voiced by Alison Brie.
That hurt me.
I wanted to just put that out there. So this Vietnamese character is voiced by Alison Brie.
Also, to be fair, they did bring on a Vietnamese writer for that season and for that episode, like specifically, and the Vietnamamese writer wrote pretty much that whole episode. While the character is voiced by a white woman,
sure.
There is like some Vietnamese influence, so like it's give and take. It's real tough.
I think
so if you're listening or watching, but if you don't know what happened, is that basically this character who is Vietnamese American goes back to Vietnam. She goes back to Vietnam to kind of get away from stuff because she's having a bad time, and she tries to like she has the same experience where she goes there, she speaks Vietnamese, but like she's still treated like a tourist. But then when she doesn't speak Vietnamese, when she does speak Vietnamamese, she meets somebody who thinks she's Vietnamese, like she's real Vietnamese, and gets mad when he realizes she's actually just American and speaks English. And it's like that episode hurt me so bad in so many ways. I was like, oh god.
Yeah, and I think like the reason I brought it up is because I think what I've hit with all this stuff is like there is no salvation in any of this. Like there is no ideal queer identity. There's no ideal like racial, like there's no ideal Viet person, whatever that looks like. That's just kind of feeding into this like monolithic idea that like white people have. That's like, oh yeah, you're wearing like an ao dai and you're like, you got that paper hat and you got the fan, like fuck off. Like we like are wearing what we're wearing, we're like living where we're living, and we're existing, and that is also part of our identity. And that like I don't know, I'm having big thoughts and I don't know how to say them out loud.
No, I really appreciate everything you're saying. I think it is, I mean, it still feels good hearing someone else say it too, because it is like we are all these things, so we have to accept that. But it's hard because our brain is like, no, we have to be this one thing. We have to be the pure, like you said, like we have to be the pure Vietnamese, the perfect. I mean, this even goes back to like, how you're raised too. Like I'm not married to a Vietnamese doctor, so I'm already disappointment to my parents.
Oh my God.
Still think I might one day get into it.
One day.
Just like, I know I'm not a math Asian mom. Like I can't be a scientist. I can't do Asian. Like, no, I can write nice scripts. That's my talent. I'm sorry. And I'm like pretty good at makeup. That's like, I got like two things going for my mom.
I am getting a great amount of catharsis out of this conversation. And I really hope that, this is this momentum can continue for other identities as well. Even if you're not on a podcast or something like that, you're a listener out there and you feel a little seen by this, I absolutely encourage you to find spaces where you have other people who share your identity or parts of it. And just if everyone's okay with it, be a little vulnerable, see where it goes. I think it's actually quite cathartic, but also go to therapy. But also meet people and talking about these, I think, is really, really helpful and helps to kind of help you better push your goals if your goal is like representation. These insights, I think, are really, really helpful. We got kind of deep here, but I do want to bring this back to maybe something more positive. So I'm going to ask another question here. Feel free to answer if you'd like. If you had a magic wand and you could just put Vietnamese representation anywhere in media, what would that kind of look like? It doesn't have to be specific. It could just be like, I'd like to see more names. But is there something you'd like to see out there if you could just make it happen? I'll go first.
Go for it.
I want to see more Vietnamese food in just places that aren't Vietnam or like generic Pan Asia. So like I keep going back to like the Avengers like end credit scene where like they're having shawarma. Great scene, kind of weird, but like good scene. I would just love to see people just randomly just eating Vietnamese food and calling it by its actual name. Like actually eat the food and actually call it what it is, or call it like a fusion, because that happens all the time with Vietnamese cuisine as well. Arguably, Vietnamese cuisine is only fusion. But I would just love to see more people just like fucking eating a banh mi and just like, there it is.
Yeah.
Sorry,
That was
banh
my
mi.
answer.
I was not going to call you out, but
Banh mi?
like,
I don't know how to say
Banh
it. Is
No, but
I thought it was banh
banh
mi.
mi. I say
it's-
it like me, like
yeah.
migoy. So
Banh
I'm
mi.
clearly.
Yeah.
I do.
That's how I say it, but like everybody says it differently. Like just like in English, everybody has like different pronunciations of the same word, and like
We have a chain of restaurants in Toronto called Banh Mi Boys, but I'm like, I refuse to call it that. It's banh mi. And like
In Boston, we have it's BONME. It's banh mi.
oh
Oh,
weird.
they've just given up on the A.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
H.
this is like a lot of white people, so like, yeah,
Right.
fusion.
Yeah.
We love Asian food.
See, the one in Toronto even keeps the accents and whatnot.
Oh.
So it has special characters, but no one can pronounce it. So they're just like, you know what? All marketing stuff, it's Banh Mi Boys.
You know, and this is, again, this is a tangent. Here we go, tangent.
Let's go.
I went to Little Saigon for the first time when my parents were visiting a few weeks ago. Holy shit. So if you don't know about Little Saigon, it's in Southern California near it's in the Orange County. Sorry. I was gonna try to say the OC, and then I try to make it more
Orange
accessible
County
to
of the
everybody who's
show.
listening. Yeah, so Little Saigon is the biggest conglomeration of Vietnamese people outside of Vietnam, like in the world. And I kind of just didn't know that, or I've been living in LA since 2008. I never went down there once, except to go to like Disneyland, which is on the other side, you know. And I felt like like when we finally went, I was like, oh, all my childhood memories of like there's like Vietnamese like malls we would go to, like in Washington D.C. would drive to from Pittsburgh, which was where I lived when I was a kid.
Wait,
Yeah, and so it was like that, but like way more fucking intense. Just like all these old ladies yelling at you about Jade and like, and the food.
I know the mall
like,
you went to.
Yeah, and every single, and there's a whole, there's a whole, it's a huge place. It's not like a little shitty like one block or two blocks. It's like a whole town of Vietnamese people that every time my parents would talk to somebody, they would find someone else they knew from Vietnam there. It was crazy. They were running people from like their high school. And I was just like, you know, that they haven't seen since the war. And I'm like, this is crazy. But yeah, the food, you're talking about the food, Steve. But just like being there, and I met like one of my little cousins, like it's like my cousin's kids, so they're like 18. And Summer, shout out to Summer. And just like the way she was talking about food, like all the Vietnamese food was like so normal for her. Like I wasn't weird. Like she knew everything, and she was so young. It made me feel like really like, oh, I could have grew up like this, but I didn't. I grew up Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the food being more normalized and TV would be amazing, because I don't want to explain to people what pho is ever again.
Wait,
I
what
feel
was
like-
the mall that y'all went to? Sorry, in DC, was
What-
that
yeah, what's
Union
it called?
Center?
Oh, I don't remember what it was called. I just remember we'd get in the car and drive 5 hours to go to that mall and
It's
trade
like an
gold.
outdoor strip mall thing, right? You talking?
Yeah.
I think it was Eden Center. I feel like
Why do
I
Vietnamese
feel it in
people
my
love gold so
bones.
much, by the way? Yeah, but I
Is
remember
the
being a
mall you
little
went
kid.
to in what is the mall you went to in Little Saigon? The whole like second
big
floor
one.
basically was all jewelry shops, right?
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
It has that
Fook Dao?
statue.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually kind of getting run down now, and like now there's
Yeah, a
more
little bit.
shopping strip malls outside of it that are getting bigger. So
Oh, I haven't been there for a while. I
It's-
live right there. I'm in Orange County right now, so it's like,
really?
yeah. So, but I think like I agree. Seeing Vietnamese food in more stuff is it's really cool, and I think pho is like the one. It's like it's the ramen of Vietnamese
Yeah.
like food culture. It's like it's the one dish everybody knows, and like if you go another step down, they know banh mi. Recently in a show I saw, they talked about like they just casually said like, oh yeah, it was like two white characters speaking to each other like on a set or something. They said like, oh, we got a bun ziu truck, and those you can go get some of those. I was like, wait, hang on, no, you went past bun mi as like some white folks.
Yeah.
Like wow, that's you.
Yeah,
I had a
looked
when
Vietnamese
you
something
said
on
up.
the
that,
show.
when Steve said that, it reminded me there's like an episode of Blown Away where like that like glass blowing show. This white guy, he like makes a glass whatever apparatus to eat bum tit nướng, and I was like, what is happening? I like looked it up and I was like, what?
Making
Crazy.
a specific dish to eat. Wow.
Like to make the sauce like kind of spread out evenly, and I was like, yo, this is a beautiful like thing, and I am like, this is great. That was great.
I love that. That like blows my mind, but like also dope as fuck.
Yeah.
Rule of 3.
None of us answered your question, Steve. I'm so sorry. We're just like, oh yes, we agree.
That's fine. I'm perfectly fine just talking about shit. Like this is such a great conversation. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, to answer your question directly, now that we're saying, but I think like since I've like kind of come into the video game industry, like video games, capital V, capital G, like what I want less when I was like a kid playing games, which is like representation, right? Seeing Asian people on screen. I don't necessarily want that because I know that like the back end is still a lot of white people, white engineers, white writers, white people designing and curating this experience. I don't really want them to slap like Asian aesthetic on top. I think what I want is like people in that back end making those choices, like kind of like I don't even like the little shit, like just having Vietnamese, like I had the experience the other day where we were designing like an asset, and I made like the yin yang fish, but I didn't really want it to be the yin yang fish. And I submitted my like concept art, and this other concept artist who's Chinese, he like looked at it and was like, yo, this is visual like representation that I understand. And he took it wow. Like to just like, he did his research. He was like, this is like da da da. And I was like, yes, like this is what I want. I want like Asian shit like made the artistic decisions being made by other people like us. Like I would not trust a white person to just put a yin yang on like clothes and be like, we got it.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah, that's so true. Like so I work in production, and I when I work with people of color, the way we work together is so different when the whole crew is just white and it's just me trying to fight for like, yo, how about it's not all just this one thing all the time, and the changes always it has to come from us. And I think like I think I would just love to see more just in general, of course, like all Asian creators, but like more Vietnamese creators just feeling empowered to take charge and move up in the ranks and do what they want to do, and not settle and not make ourselves small anymore, and to fucking go for it. I think I'd love to see more of that. I think I it's weird. I don't have a lot of Vietnamese friends. Like I never have, to be fair. Like, I grew up in a like all white community. It was wild. Didn't speak to a single Asian person until like I like went to college basically. And it's messed up. And then now I'm in like LA, and like there's lots of Asian people here, and I have Korean friends, I have Chinese friends, I have like Filipino friends, like they're all awesome. But I don't have a lot of Vietnamese friends. Like, and I feel like 'cause I work a lot in media, and my friends tend to like be like that, and there's just not a lot of us there who will represent like on screen, who represent like even like script writing, production, everything moving up into making us more front facing. It's hard.
I mean, that's a whole conversation about stereotypes, like
absolutely
all the
what jobs
people
can we
that look
do?
like all the people that look like us are doctors or whatever the stereotype is.
Not doctors.
I was
more
gonna,
actors.
I was gonna go into stereotypes, but you know what? I just want to not, so that's fine. But I actually, Vin, you mentioned something early on in this episode about asking people to take your identity and like what you're putting out there and to be gentle with it. And I want to pull it back to that because I also have this tension where I really want representation where like there's that main character, they're Viet, they're like saying with their whole chest, like I want that. At the same time, I want the identity to be treated with a lot of nuance. So at the same time, I would rather maybe not have that. Instead, I want like the tiny pieces, a little like cultural signifiers where I see seen, but it's not like in my face, because my identity as Vietnamese is complicated. So I don't necessarily want to see a single piece of Vietnamese representation that's like, this is what it means to be Viet, because chances are 99% of the people who are Viet don't line up with that. And I'm actually quite scared of seeing that, because I don't want people to start comparing me to like this fictional thing, because my identity is so much more rich than anything that you could see in just like one data point. So I have some great insights here. Yeah.
that's like the complicated catch-22 of like representation is if it's not there, what is there is the only thing. So like when Crazy Rich Asians came out, everyone was like, how do you feel about this? How do we feel about this? And I'm like, I reserve all criticism. I hold it in my body until I die. No one's gonna know any negative thoughts. I loved it. It was great. We love seeing Asians on screen, right? But like, I did not feel like it was a good enough. Like, if there's only one movie, like,
of course it's not going to be everything.
It's not going to be everything. And so like we just have to wait until but like, you know, do what we can to make sure that there's more diverse experiences so that if there's 10 movies, 100 movies with different representations of different kinds of Asians, people like us, blah, 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 like, then I think there's less pressure on like the one thing.
Yeah.
To be beautiful and perfect.
It's definitely a numbers game, man. Like, I mean,
definitely.
I like, think about how many, just to pick a random thing that's not like being Asian. Think about superhero movies. Remember when they were all bad? Every single one was really bad,
right?
Really bad. Then they got a little better, and then they went bad again. And then they got really good, and then bad. Like they rode a sort of a roller coaster. And I think in that way too, so must we ride the superhero movie roller coaster, where the first movie that's about Asian, like Vietnamese people, is going to be like real shitty. We're all gonna be like, no, it's great, everyone go see it.
Guys, super.
If you don't buy tickets, then they're not gonna make another one. Yeah, and I think that's the game we all play. It's capitalism also.
Yeah, I think we should just embrace like the messiness.
Yeah,
embrace the messiness. I like that.
Yeah.
There's like a documentary series that Netflix put out about like Latinx representation and like queer representation, like that intersection. They like brought in like Glee, like Santana from Glee. Like that was like, there's like two, like whatever, and like it sucks. And so one of the writers was like, specificity is universality, and I'm like, yeah, like. As creators, I feel like we shouldn't be pressured to write the perfect thing. Like that's what I've been hearing a lot is like, how do I do this right? Like, bro, you are existing. Bring that shit into your work, and that will be beautiful, and like that will be representative of you. That's all you got to do, I guess. I don't know.
I love that.
That was beautiful.
Specificity is universality. I just wrote that shit down. That was on the wall.
Get a tattoo of that. That was, you know what? We're coming up on time, and I think that's a really great note to end on, knowing that of course this is not the last time we're going to gather a whole bunch of Vietnamese voices and talk about our experiences. I think this was a great way to just break the ice and just let it be messy. And I think our listeners out there, I think we try to be as formal and like try to have like a set of questions, but at the end it just got messy. And to be quite honest, I kind of liked it. I felt like a Vietnamese conversation. Which is such a weird thing to say, but
there
like
needs to be more yelling.
They're not
be up here.
We're not yelling. That's just how we talk.
That's what I'm saying.
Why is your family yelling all the time?
So we talk.
We want to make sure we're heard.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But I think that's a great place to end. I would love if folks could just reiterate who you are, where folks might find you. And then we'll do kind of our outro here. There's like a little Asian represent little ritual we do at the end, which I'll explain in a bit. But Michelle, where can people find you?
Hello, you can find me at I am Chubby Bunny on Twitter and Instagram, or on my portfolio page, MichelleNguyenBradley.com. You can find me every Tuesday on the Hunters Entertainment Twitch channel playing Outbreak Undead. It's emotional, it's crazy. We have a lot of PvP, scary. On Wednesdays, you can find me on Paizo's official channel on Twitch, playing Pathfinder and Starfinder and all things good. And sometimes on Critical Role as Hua Sen.
Amazing.
Love it.
Vian, where can people find you?
Hi. You can find me on Twitter, I guess, at Jub Nuggets. You can find me on itch.io, same name. If you're really into playing RPGs and or solo experiences or reading things that really get you in your feelings, that's where you can find it. So find me. We'll talk about it.
We'll go to the moon. We'll talk about the moon.
We'll go to the moon.
Kevin, where can folks find you?
Hi, I'm Kevin Thien Nguyen. You can find me and block me on social medias over at knit_knack. You can buy my games, which are all designed out of spite, at winconditions.com. That's NGUYEN, like my last name. And you can also find me as a regular cast member over on All Nerds Here. That's twitch.tv/All Nerds Here, where I always play Vietnamese characters on this stream. Some of them are good, a lot of them are bad. And we're allowed to have like bad characters that represent us, because
Love it.
Vietnamese people are like all a spectrum of good and bad, and like crusty and nice.
Amazing. So we're going to end our episode with a quick little outro. So at the end of every single Asian Rippers episode, we go, I'm Steve, and we'll do an order. And at the end we go, you just listen to Asians Represent, and we say it all at the same time. And because we're all remote, it's going to be super out of sync, and it's a problem for like Daniel and producers to like edit it all together. And I love them for it, but I would never be able to do this. So I'll go first. I'll be like, I'm Steve. And then we'll do Michelle, Vian, Kevin. And then I'll say, you've just listened to, and together we'll say Asians Represent. And it's going to be, I do fist pumps because I do fist pumps all the time. You can do whatever makes you happiest. Yeah, I love that.
Do that.
Yeah, perfect. Everyone cool?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, it's going to be messy and gross, and I love it.
Wait, what's the last bit? This is.
And you've been listening to Asians
I didn't write it
Represent.
all down.
let me like send you an email. No, and then
Formally send me that consent form again.
I'll go, I'm Steve, and then we'll go to Michelle, I'm Michelle, so on and so forth. Then Vian, then Kevin, and then I'll say, you've just listened to, and then together we're going to say
we just
Asians
say the
Represent.
name of the
Asians
podcast.
Represent.
Okay,
Asians
got
Represent.
it. Okay,
Yep.
got it.
All right, perfect. All right, take a deep breath. Here we go. I'm Steve,
I'm Michelle.
I'm Vian.
And I'm Kevin.
and you just listened to
Asians
Represent. Oh God, that's so good. It's gonna be
It's
perfect.
it.
It's perfect. It was perfectly in sync, and everyone's gonna love it.
Steve, wow, that was incredible. That was something.
It was that was wild watching that again. That was,
Yeah,
we did some really great stuff there. I'm really happy with that episode.
I think that one of the things that I really liked about that is that didn't really talk about gaming all that much, and I think we need to do more of this. Yeah, I think that this is the kind of conversation that we need to have on Asians Represent, right? Steve, I thought you crushed it. I thought you were honest. I thought you were vulnerable the way you normally are, and honestly, I want to see you do more of that. Like I want to have Kevin, Vian, and Michelle back on. I would love to see an actual play, right? I know we ran Kevin's Unbreakable Volume 1 adventure, but I'm just hyped to see more. And I thought you crushed it. So
I learned from the best.
Agatha.
That's right.
That's right. No, I'm hyped. I'm a little bummed that there was that little technical glitch. I'm not sure what happened there. But what I'll do is I will put together all the video files and fix up the VOD so that the VOD won't have that little bit of lag that we had during the show.
And you know what? Like we said this before, before the stream and during the stream, but I think smoothing out the wrinkles of this pre-recorded stuff, I think it opened up so many avenues for us and for other people and things like that, that I think I'm happy for it to just be what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just a heads up for you, so we're talking about production. The background audio, I can actually hear the background audio through your headphones.
No, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'll edit it out in the audio. And so if you want to listen to the audio with, the extended 40 minutes at the beginning, without the background audio coming through the other headset, you can support us on Patreon, like these amazing people who are on screen right now. Thank you so much to, all of our disciple, guardian, and most honorable patrons. Y'all are awesome. We really appreciate all of the support. If we didn't have Patreon, we wouldn't be able to, find, like a way to get into a more productive cadence, a way to, have conversations like the one Steve had, a way to basically not have the organizational burden of Asians Represent just crush me. I'm just so happy that we have everyone's support. Every dollar counts, and y'all are incredible. That said, there are some people that we have to shout out. Now, unfortunately, Marla is not going to be able to make it. for this. Marla is okay. Marla is okay. Marla's okay. I would not announce anything like that during a stream. I would just be like, Asians represent, cancel for like 1 month while I just grieve. No. I ordered some dinner for my partner and I, and fried chicken is coming right now, so she's gonna go get the fried chicken. So I can't bring up Marla, who's basically like a giant furry turkey. So I apologize to our patrons for that. That said, shout out to Brooke Bright, Jeremy, aka Pixel Grotto. Go check out the latest D&D Beyond video on the D&D Beyond YouTube channel.
Yes.
And Jeremy crushed it. We retweeted it on the Asians Represent Twitter. Like I said, every single time I click on a Jeremy Blum article, every single time. I watch every single one, so Jeremy gets my view on both like the traffic, and D&D Beyond knows that we want more Jeremy. I unfortunately don't click on everyone else's. I just click on Jeremy. There's just so much there. But yeah, shout out to Jeremy. And then, of course, Daisy May. Those are our guardians of the realms. Y'all are awesome. And then our most honorable patrons. And I'm so happy that every 2 weeks I get to call, these folks the most honorable people. But shout out to, Ryan the Wizard Hall, Metal Weave Games, Valorous Games, the most honorable, sorry, I should have said the most honorable Ryan the Wizard Hall, the most honorable Metal Weave Games. Shout out to, Baby Bestiary and the Owlbear plush. And then Valorous Games, the most honorable Leanna. Check out Valorous Games. We're going to do something real cool. Agatha and the Caratur crew. We've got some big plans with Valorous Games and Asians Represent. So I'm super hyped. Shout out to Leanna for being the most honorable person on Asians Represent. And then, the most honorable Dungeon Glitch / Matt. And then the most honorable ×2 Epic Impulse. Y'all are awesome. I think you're fantastic. Thank you for your support. And thank you, Steve, for hosting that. And thank you, Steve, for saying, hey, Daniel, can we do this? Right? I think the conversation in the future can be like, hey, Daniel, we're going to do this, because that's what I want to see moving forward. I was talking about it in the Twitch chat, but one of the things that Isa brought up during our pre-recording for episode 42 is we're going to do one on sort of the mixed experience. And so we're going to put together a panel, and it's going to be one of many, because that's a very complex topic to discuss, but one that we haven't actually had on the show. Oh, she's here. It's
Hello,
Marla.
Hello, Marla.
Marla's making an appearance. Oh, there's that big round shadow a little bit
And
closer.
she loves it. Just look at
Marla.
that.
Oh, Marla, a little bit over this one. Marla, hey.
She loves just all of this.
Marla.
That is what I tune in for.
Marla, are you going to say hi to everyone?
Thanks, Agatha.
Poor Marla.
Marla? Okay, she's going to pee. That said,
Great.
That's a thank y'all for. I'm so sorry, Marla. We love you so much. We'll make Marla merch one day.
Yes.
Yo, we should talk to the most honorable Metal Weave Games. Instead of the Owlbear plush, it'll just be the Marla plush, and then we'll just get sued by Pusheen.
Oh no.
I could
She's our
see
brand
like
ambassador.
I could see like a Marla, just like a big old chunk with like a bow.
With
Like
a
it's just like a bow, just like
on her tum tum,
little tum.
on her tum
Yeah.
tum, something like that.
I'm into that.
I did. There was this Asian American artist who was doing like, I'll make your cat as a D&D character, and I was like, oh, here, I'm gonna throw money. Please make my cat as a warlock. I'll show you two after. I'll share it. You know what? I'll share it in our the Patreon section of our Discord because I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
That said, Steve, thank you for organizing that. Shout out to Kevin, Vian, and Michelle for sharing, your stories, being vulnerable, and just being like amazing human beings. Y'all are great. That said, we're gonna close this up now. We're gonna raid someone. Steve, do you have who we're gonna raid? We're gonna raid someone, so stick around.
Yeah, we stick around. We'll rate someone.
Stick around. We're gonna raid someone, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.